How many times have you heard the phrase, stay in your lane? Or you're aiming too high, you have no business doing that, just stay in your lane. What if I told you that part of me agrees with that, but not in the way that you're thinking? Let's talk about it. Hello, my lovelies. So happy to have you back. Sandy Salgado here. I do hope that you find yourselves well and in good health as always. Stay in your lane is the title of today's message. Yes, we are all too familiar with the negative connection or the negative viewpoint of this phrase where people use it as an insult because they perhaps feel threatened or they feel intimidated or they just genuinely don't believe that you belong in the place where you're kind of dipping your toes in. But today I want to challenge you to reconnect this phrase to a little bit of goodness. I cannot tell you how many videos I've done, how many times I've spoken on purpose. I genuinely, wholeheartedly believe that each of us as individuals were uniquely created with a purpose. And because of that purpose, we were given individual and unique gifts and talents that were deposited in each of us by God in order to execute that very purpose. And what that means simply is God has given us each a grace to operate under in order to be able to execute whatever it is that He brought us to do to this world. The problem in today's society is that many individuals are operating outside of the grace of God, meaning they're not tapping into their gifts and talents. They're doing a job they absolutely hate. They're pursuing a career that they have no business pursuing simply because it looks good on someone else. All while God has given you the grace to operate under your gifts and talents. He's deposited something unique inside of you that nobody else has in order to execute the purpose that God brought you to fulfill. Now, let me back up a little bit. There is a difference between imitation and admiration. It is perfectly okay to admire the work of another. And I've said it, I don't know how many times. There's a big line in between those two words. To admire the work of another and aspire to be like someone is perfectly okay. But when you start imitating someone, you fall in under this delusion that you have to execute exactly as they do, all while the gifts and talents that they're operating under, you don't have. So yes, it may look good on your neighbor, it may look good on your friend, on your mentor, on whoever it is that you aspire to be like, but perhaps the gifts and talents that they're operating under, you do not possess. Which is why it looks so effortless on them and why you struggle so much with trying to imitate what they're doing. Does that make sense? In the Bible, in the book of Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5, tells us, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you," meaning he gave us purpose. "I appointed you a prophet of the nations." What has God appointed for you to execute? What did God create you for? That is a question that we should all be asking ourselves daily at all times of the day, to check in with ourselves, to make sure that we're not digressing, that we're not operating outside of the grace of God, that we're not trying to fulfill someone else's expectation of who we should be just because they believe that looks good on us. Ask yourself, am I operating under the grace of God? Am I operating with the gifts and talents that were given to me? So how do you know if you're in the right lane? How do you know whether or not you should stay in your lane or jump ships, so to say? Here are just a few things that you can do that will help you narrow down the idea of your lane. Number one, ask yourself what your gifts and talents are. Write them down. What comes natural to you? What is something that you're passionate about, just naturally passionate about, that is effortless to you? And if you're having a hard time answering these questions, discerning what your gifts and talents are, identifying these gifts and talents, do not be afraid to go outside of yourself and ask someone else what it is that they see in you. Now, make sure that it is someone with wisdom, someone who cares for you, someone with the fear of God in them, someone who is not going to send you on a wild goose chase, someone who loves and cares for you, in other words. But identify what it is that you're good at, what your gifts and talents are. Number 2, look at the fruit that you are bearing. The Bible tells us, by their fruits they will be known. If you are going to a job that you absolutely hate, that you are miserable in, you wake up every single day just counting down the hours to be able to clock out, that might be a cue. That might be a clue that you're operating outside of the grace of God, that you have absolutely no business doing that job. So make sure that you self-examine, that you create an inventory about what it is that you're bringing to the table. And if it doesn't align with your gifts and talents and what it is that you're pursuing or what it is that you're good at, then that might be the time to jump lanes, to change lanes and not stay in that lane because it's not your lane to begin with. Lastly, number 3, let it be known that all good things take time. Once you figure out your lane, just be aware that you have a long, long road ahead of you. And what that means is walk when you need to walk, run when it is necessary, sit and rest when you have to. But most importantly, make sure that you enjoy the ride, because let me tell you, it will be over before you know it. So today, I want to encourage you to find your lane and to stay in your lane. And when you do, I want to encourage you to run the heck out of that lane, wherever it is that it may take you. That is all that I have for you today. I do hope that this message serves its purpose. I do hope to see you again soon. Until next time, God bless each and every one of you. Ciao.